I'm just literally left in disbelief, speechless, bamboozled, flabbergasted, all of the above when I watch these episodes, but that was a good bait and switch. I've been waiting, and I think probably like many, been waiting for Giga freaking Macha to come in and just ruin Christmas. And seemingly exactly that happened. Do the flashback thing. That's what My Hero does. They say, oh, here's this big bad thing, rewind 15 minutes, maybe an hour, show what happened to cause the bad thing to now occur. So seeing them get, kind of screwed around, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But the fact that we were basically able to use daddy issues as a weapon against All For One is like, I did not see that coming. Because once it's revealed that I'm like, oh shit, like we're actually manipulating him, we're using the whole voice change thing, we're bringing out the big dog, because seriously, if that big dog fighting against us, they shit out of luck. And then just the way it kept escalating, I mean, even though it wasn't as bad as it could have been, I still failed to see how they get out of this one alive. I have those full live reactions over on Patreon if you want some full good thought to any of these wonderful My Hero Academia episodes over there exclusively. So, I've said it since early points of this season, because when you think of the endgame isn't an arc, like 6 or 8 episodes. The endgame for My Hero Academia is Season 6, it's Season 7, and it's going to be Season 8 to wrap the whole thing up, right? This has been peak Shonen. I'm not saying it's the best Shonen thing I've ever seen, but when I think of what peak Shonen looks like, this endgame is up there. And man, they cooked. And that's why it kind of blows me away that there's unironically people who still think that this season isn't polished enough. People will think of like an All For One versus, All Might fight, and from like the early season, and say, why can't everything look like that? And that's a singular fight that lasted a few episodes in a season that didn't have action every single episode. This is the best looking season. This has the most action, it has the most creative, like the lighting, the effects, everything they do with this season is just, it cooks. And it is not looking good for the characters. And the fact that they can still make it feel helpless, hopeless, and full of despair, but because we still have characters alive and kicking, it makes me say there is still a fighting chance. But it is gonna be darkest before the dawn, man, because we leave this episode with like a third of our active fighters like just not moving anymore, or at least the key crucial ones. Hawks lost his quirk. I really thought this was going to be the day, because I've been waiting for Hawks to die this whole time. Not because I want him to, I just thought he had a big death flag. Lady I thought had a pretty big death flag too. So far she's making it out alive, but it just ain't looking good for characters. But the idea, and I'm surprised to say this, because I don't like old grape juice. I think he's too much of a character. I can do without. But when he threw one of the little freaking grapes at the biggest of bads and pretty much said, don't you dare take Dark Shadow, he pretty much said he looked like an edgy teenager. Like, he pretty much said he was gonna look like he shops at Hot Topic. And the first time in a long time I've looked at this boy and I said, you know what? I'm glad you're a part of the show, if only for that line. So, I like what they did, because this is the most balanced, because I really had fear early into this season that it was going to really jump around to all the different perspectives, and it would just feel like, oh man, I just want to focus on the Bakugo stuff, or I just want to focus on the Deku, like, usually that's how it goes. And when an episode like this starts, if you were to tell me these are going to be the characters I'm going to focus on, I'd say, oh, okay. Yeah, sure, like, I'm not going to push back against it, but it's definitely going to be a weaker episode. It's not going to live up to the excitement of the past 17 episodes. But it does. Even if these characters aren't necessarily the ones you immediately want to go to and gravitate towards, their content is fantastic. This is what I really appreciate about Horikoshi as an author, and I love the fact that the anime's been able to get that across. Even though this is in some ways, you might even want to say an obnoxiously large cast. Like, there's a lot of characters, both on pro heroes, students, all this stuff. And it's impossible to give every single character a big moment or a piece of development. But when I see them do callbacks about returning favors of like, hey, you saved my life against Giga Macha, I'm returning the favor, I thought I wasn't good enough, and just seeing these moments with characters who aren't the ones that most fans are talking about, And seeing a girl like this have her moment to shine and to show how far she's come, even if they don't get the same attention as something like a Deku or a Todoroki or a Bakugo get, the fact that they can still sneak it into the endgame when they can like that is actually pretty impressive. And I really don't think Horikoshi gets the respect he deserves. I really feel like when people, like the general public, talk about My Hero, they think, oh, it's just the shonen superhero series. But man, this was a show that cooked for now 7 seasons. And it's not like they just randomly do stuff with a character who's never been relevant. It's like they have those small building blocks. And of course, not everything's planned 100%, but the idea of giving that callback and giving that build-up, it does go a long way to add to the pile of good that My Hero has going on for it. And like, I know in general the overall internet apparently didn't like the final chapter of My Hero. I don't really care about that. People didn't like the final chapter of Attack on Titan at face value. I enjoyed it, even if I had issues with it. And when the anime came out, universally, it was praised. Very similar thing could easily happen with My Hero, but even if we say the final episode of My Hero in Season 8 is just ass, it's not good, we don't like it, I've had 2 to 3 seasons of just pure peak. That doesn't go away. For some people it does. Hey, that's how your brain works. For me, it doesn't. I have all of this amazing stuff, like, what, I don't care if the final episode takes a piss on Hawks' grave. Like, I'll find it disrespectful, but it doesn't change all the great content I had with Hawks at the end of the day, you know? That's kind of how I feel with it. If I was to pick a favorite moment, I really liked when they shifted the voice change with All For One. Like, that was just such a smooth transition, and I love, because we have like a reverse aging thing going on, and when he really starts going, man, and then Dark Shadow, like, Dark Shadow is top 3 quirks in this series. I think I've mentioned that before in videos. I love Dark Shadow, and he got even cooler in this episode, man. And he fucking All For One was hungry for that quirk, man, and he came damn close to it. I don't know, this was just nothing really about the episode. Like, I'd say 2/3 of the episode is content and characters I could go without ever seeing, and they made it stand tall, like we were watching the main characters do their thing. Based on the preview, it looks like we're getting back to some heated business. I don't know how they get out of this one, I gotta be honest. Like, I feel like everyone is going to be down on the count, and Deku's going to have to do one last kamikaze or something, because I don't know how the hell they're dealing with this shit. But using Giga Macha as a weapon was not on my bingo card, and that was freaking fantastic and horrifying to see a boy's body muscle fibers rip in the way that it did. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we have full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Juan Carlos, James Jr., Triton Lord, Amanda Laboud, and we also have Bill. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Y'all have a good one.